Good morning. My name is Karen. I'm the book Librenaut. I read all types of books, and these are some summer recommendations. Let's start it off with a classic and a children's classic, and that is Anne of Green Gables. This is a warm hug of a book. This is about Anne Shirley, who gets accidentally adopted into this family. They really wanted a farmhand to help them with the farm. They requested a boy, and instead they get Anne. And Anne just has some joie de vivre about her, and they end up falling in love with her. It's a brother and a sister, and they fall in love with her, and they decide that they're going to adopt her anyway, even though they wanted a boy to help out. And it's all about Anne Shirley's journey and adolescence, being adopted and finding friendship, dealing with boys at school, and just the absolute joy of being with her as a character. She is sweet and loving and so creative and artistic and kind of lives in a world of her own. And this is a perfect world to escape to for the summertime. The second book I'm going to recommend is also a children's book, and this one's a bit of a mystery. It is The Mystery of Black Hollow Lane. I had this one recommended to me by my niece, and she swore up and down it was the best book she's ever read, and I went, oh, okay, whatever, and I read it, and yes, it's good. It's so good. This is a fun story of a girl who goes to Britain from America, and she goes to a private school, and there she sort of becomes suspicious and embroiled in a very cool mystery. This has like hidden chambers and hidden societies, and she's just trying to figure out and fit in, all the while making really deep friendships. But also the idea of going to a school where you can kind of explore a castle is just so fun. So would recommend this one for the summertime. For another mystery flavor, I read this one very recently, and that's called This Side of Murder. I really enjoyed this book. This is so tropey, and yet it is so fun. It is a woman who's been recently widowed by the war, World War One. She's still kind of getting over that, and she gets invited to this island with a bunch of his comrades and buddies that he fought with in the war. And then people start dying, and she's trying to solve the mystery, and it's so fun. And the thing that I liked the most about the way that this was written was that the main character, she is a strong woman, but she doesn't need to tell you that all up front. She kind of just reveals as she goes that, oh, yes, and I did this, and oh, I have this knowledge, and oh, do you know, like she was part of the British spy agency or something. And like she just slowly reveals things. And I really like how well done that was. This is a fun one for sure. Some more murder mysteries. This is called Spectres in the Glass House. I picked this one for my garden themed reading experience. A glass house is essentially like, think like the conservatory on old English houses that's just all glass, and you can grow all sorts of tropical plants in there. This has two different timelines. We follow this wonderful woman in the past, and she comes to this house, and it's sort of just her journey of family mysteries getting uncovered. And then fast forward to modern time, we learn that that woman has been murdered, and the main character is trying to solve what happened back in the past. So we're getting these two timelines, same building. It's really cool, and I found this one really lovely and heartwarming, but also gives you a little bit more meat to grab onto. I was just thinking, like, what kinds of things do I like reading in the summertime? And one of the things I love reading is a good mystery. And this one is no less. This is called Crocodile on the Sandbank. It is set in Egypt. So if you want that hot feel of summertime, you're going to get this. Amelia Peabody is our detective in this one. She's not really a detective. She's an Egyptologist who goes to Egypt and is studying the monuments. And here she meets her potential husband. And there's a bunch of shenanigans and there's a mystery. And it's so fun. And there's something that I always push with this one is that this is a funny book. There is not only does Elizabeth Peters, she knows what she's talking about when she's talking about Egyptology, but she is also so funny in her physical humor. There's a lot of things that just happen that make you chuckle. And I find this one to be uplifting and just a good time. Something else that I love reading in the summertime, I don't know why, but I do love me a good gothic ghost story. And this one is called The Screaming Staircase. This is not set in the past. I always think it is when I read it. I think it is, but it's not. It's modern day time. Something has happened with the ether and humanity, and ghosts sort of run the world. And we have in this world, kids are the most sensitive to ghosts and dealing and interacting with ghosts. We're following a ghost hunting agency where the main characters are kind of like hunters, but also they're trying to get rid of the ghosts that are bothering people. And this is, it's so fun. I really enjoy the world. It is a ditch scary. So if you want a little bit of, I know there's a readathon called Summerween where people read horror books in the summertime. So this one would be a perfect fit for that one. So if you're looking for some spooky woo in the summer, this is a go-to. Now for something a little more contemporary, I have for you Shark Heart. This one surprised me, and I think this one goes either way for some people. It is very metaphorical and exploratory of unusual things, all the while dealing with very grounded things like grief. It's about a couple, a man and a woman, and the man finds out that he's been diagnosed with slowly turning into a shark. And this sounds weird, and it sounds like the premise of a scary book, but it is not. It ends up being loving and sweet because them as a couple dealing with the changes together, him dealing with the toll that the illness is taking, all the while interspersed with lyrical and poetic language that just really captured me and drew me in. Also, the cover is very summery. So this one is maybe a little more tender, but it is nonetheless really enjoyable and will stick with you. Speaking of one that stuck with me, The Sea in Summer, if we want to talk about the heat and global warming, this deals with global warming and the flooding of the world. This is a science fiction that won the Hugo Award in 1988 or 87. This is set in Australia, which is fascinating. It is following two timelines. The first timeline is of the world has already warmed up. People are living in towers to kind of escape the waters. And as you go up in the tower, the more elite you are, and each tower is kind of run by some kind of gang lord. And this is kind of following a particular gang lord and trying to put him not necessarily in a box, but trying to figure out who exactly he was. Go fast forward in the future, they are researching and finding out about this gang lord and figuring out who he was. And the world has changed. It's like 200 years later or something. And the world has changed even more. And it's really cool to just see the complexity in this book. I would argue that there's no real likable characters in this book, but the world is drawn so splendidly, and the conspiracy just comes one after another, and it just hits you. This is an incredible one to sink your teeth into. To pair this one with Lost Ark Dreaming, I would be remiss to include this one because this is another global warming, the world is flooding. This one's really cool. This one's set in Nigeria, and it kind of blends The Sea and Summer with Deep by Rivers Solomon. And it's all about kind of like mermaids, but like scary mermaids. um, so if you want like a little bit of a little mystery, little bit of global warming set in a really interesting place in a tower, just like Sea and Summer, but this one is a novella, so you want to have a quick short read. This one is on my top list of recommendations. And the very last book I'd like to recommend to counter my novella of Lost Ark Dreaming, I would like to recommend The Will of the Many, a good, chunky book to just sit down and cuddle up with. This is a fantastic fantasy book. It is set in a Roman-like society. There are different hierarchies of people, and the main character gets adopted to be a spy in a school. So we get kind of his adoption story and then him working his way up in the school, because the school is a reflection of society and also has a hierarchy, and he has to work his way up. There is also a really cool game factor in it that reminded me a lot of Ender's Game, and I love that book as well. So this one is absolutely fun, and the second book is coming out in November, I think. So if you finish it in the summertime, you can always anticipate the second book for the winter. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Karen. I'm the Book Liberaut. I explore all types of books. We'll see you again soon. Bye.